her plate. And that's where the episode ended. Stay tuned for more episodes of Harley Quinn Season 5 on its mythical, and subscribe for more mind-blowing recaps like this. Thanks for watching.